Good morning, everybody. We are standing today in Lag BaOmer, and a few words about Lag BaOmer. We all know that's the Ilulah of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai brought the secrets of the Torah down to earth, which is very important, of course. But who was Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai? We all know. There is an interesting thing that I was talking about this morning already, that is in the book V'ten Chelkeinu, and telling us about the story with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that he was in the cave for 12 years, and then he went back for another year. And anyways, his son-in-law, Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, the famous Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, heard that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is getting out of the cave. So he came to take him home and to wash him after being in the cave for so many years. And when he's washing him, he see that his whole body is scratched and full with wounds, and he was crying, and the drops, the tears were falling on the open wounds, and Rabbi Shimon was crying from, like, it's really hurting. And he says, "Why are you crying?" He says, "Why are you crying? Oy va'avoy that I saw you like this in this situation, this unbelievable." He says, "Baruch Hashem that you saw me in this situation, because what I was before and what I'm now is a whole big difference." So the Gemara tells us that before he went into the cave, Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair was answering every time that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai asked him a question. He gave 12 answers. Now, it was all the way around. Now, when Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair asked the question, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai gave him 24 answers. In other words, he got so great in the cave, being there. And he's being asked, why is this? This is what the glory of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is, to tell us that he was in a cave and he suffered from wounds, and Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair crying him. This Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai gave us the Zohar, the Kabbalah, all the secrets of the Torah. He had miracles happening for him in the cave, like the tree that grew there and the water that he was getting. When they got out, he and his son Rabbi Elazar, they were burning everything with their eyes. Such a great power they had. He had Gilui Eliyahu. He saw Eliyahu Hanavi. And the Gemara is choosing to tell us about the story with Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair crying on Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. What is the secret here? The secret is very important for us to understand. What is the whole idea of Sfirat HaOmer, counting the Omer, building ourselves with our own talent in order to be a part of Am Yisrael? What does it mean, build yourself? Imagine to yourself sitting in a cave like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai for so many years. What would you do there? What is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai doing? He's learning Torah. This is unbelievable. And this Torah gave him the powers, those great powers. And this is exactly what we should do. We should understand that the power is in the Torah, and the Torah gives us everything. And this, by the way, connects us to the parsha, Im bechukotai telechu, ve'et mitzvotai tishmoru. 1 minute. Im bechukotai telechu, ve'et mitzvotai tishmoru, ve'asitem otam, ve'natati gishmechem b'itam, ve'natna aretz yivula. If you go according to the laws of the Torah, I will give you the blessing. You will get rain and all the good things of the world. And of course, the question is being asked, sorry, 1 minute. We all know that reward in this world doesn't exist. The reward is in the next world. So what are we talking here about? And there are a lot of answers, but one of the basic answers is that the basic of the whole world is the Torah. In other words, if I keep the Torah, the world will exist. If I don't keep the Torah, there will be no world. Im lo torati yomam v'layla chukot shamayim v'aretz lo samti. If my Torah is not going to be learned and dealt with 24 hours a day and night, I'm going to cancel all the laws of nature. Everything is going to collapse. Everything is going to be destroyed. So now, we start to understand the power of the Torah. And this is what the Gemara is telling us about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. What was his power? The Torah was his power, the source of everything. And the more you learn Torah, the more you elevate yourself. And the more the world is functioning in the best way. Because if you don't listen to the Torah, if you don't do the Torah, everything is going to be destroyed. For example, now sitting at home and having this virus, it's to let us understand what it's all about. Yesterday, somebody sent me a film of the car Lamborghini. I'm sure you know it, a very expensive car. And in Jerusalem, this guy is going with this yellow Lamborghini, unbelievable car. And he's filming it from all the sides, the sky. And then he even asked the guy, how much it cost a car like this? He says, 4.5 million. 4.5 million for a car. Unbelievable. And then I see there is another film being sent to me. And I understand, why is this guy sending me 2 films of the Lamborghini? But when I started to watch the other film, I understood it right away. The same car, later that day, had an accident. I think a motorcycle went into it and the car was half destroyed. It's like, who we are. The Chinese thought they controlled the world. They rule the technology. Everybody thinks and play, oh, this is nothing. We. What are we? We are nothing. And this Lag BaOmer is to put it in our mind. We are in the middle of counting the Omer, of elevating itself. In the middle, we've got this Lag BaOmer to tell us what it's all about. It's all about the Torah. Im lo Torati, if there is no Torah, there is nothing. Im bechukotai telecho, but if you keep the Torah, we will have everything. It's not a reward. It's the way the world functions. And when we talk about this, there is another interesting thing that is being told to us in our parsha. A Hebrew slave. What is a Hebrew slave? If we will ask somebody, do you want to be a slave or a master? Of course, if you say, I want to be a master, I don't want to be a slave. A slave cannot do anything. He has to do only what his master tells him to do. And a master can do whatever he wants to. Really? Is this the real picture? Is anybody in this world, has he got the ability to do what he wants? Nobody. Nobody can do what he wants. I want to fly, I want to be a bird. Okay, so I go up to a tower and I'll jump. I'll be a bird. I will fly for 2 seconds and then finished on the floor. So in other words, I cannot do what I want. There are certain things that nobody can do. Everybody is limited with his powers. So in other words, there is nobody who really can do what he wants. And by the way, what does it mean to do what you want? Okay, I want to eat a cake, but I'm diabetic. So I eat the cake, and I eat another cake, and what happens then? I go to hospital. In other words, to do what I want, and talking about the slave. So what is a slave today? Who is a slave? All of us are slaves. Slaves to our desires, to our lust, to the things we want in life. We buy a house, we've got no money, so we take a loan in the bank. We want a beautiful car, we take a loan. And at the end of the day, we are slaves of the bank. We are slaves of life. So Kadosh Baruch Hu tells us, Ki li bnei Israel avadim, avadayim asher hotzeti otam me'eretz Mitzrayim, ani Hashem Elokeim. You, the children of Israel, are my slaves. I took you out of Egypt. On Pesach, we went out of Egypt. To be what? To be slaves. Yes. Now, what is a Hebrew slave? I want to show you something interesting. The Torah is telling us, if your brother is going to sell himself, or the Beit Din is going to sell him because he stole whatever he did, you will not work, a slave work with him. You will. What does it mean? He's a slave. I can do whatever I want. No, there are so many laws regarding a Hebrew slave. And it gets to a level that the Gemara tells us that a slave, a Hebrew slave, the slave is the master, not the Hebrew slave. Why? For example, if Gemara tells, let me see if I find it, yes. The Tanya is written in Dvarim, Ki tov lo imach, that he will have it good with you. What does it mean? Imach b'ma'achal, v'imach with you, with the food, with the feast, שלא תהיה אתה אוכל פת נקייה והוא אוכל פת קיבה. You will not eat special bread and he will eat normal bread. אתה שותה יין ישן והוא שותה יין חדש. You drink good wine and he drinks simple wine. You sleep on a pillow and he hasn't got a pillow. In other words, if you've got one steak, who is going to eat the steak? The slave. You've got one pillow. Who is going to sleep on the pillow? The slave. So who is the slave here? Now, if this is what God is telling us, to behave to a Jewish slave, so God himself, who tells that we are his slaves, that's what he is really telling us. To be a slave, it depends whose slave you are. Because there is no other option. You have to be a slave. You have to be, let's say, controlled. You have to understand that there are laws. Now, you can be a slave of your desires and of your lust. And as we said in the beginning, this is a free man. This is a must. No, this is the worst slave that can be. But if you are a slave of God, that's a whole different thing. For example, imagine to yourself a guy that loves you, and you know that he loves you. And he's got a lot of power, a lot of money. And he comes to you with a special offer. He says, listen, I'm going to give you everything, whatever you want. A beautiful house, a car, books, food, the best food, whatever you want. What you want, I'm going to give you everything, all the good things of life. But I want you to listen to me and do exactly what I tell you to do. And you have to understand that whatever you do is not for me, it's for you. You're really doing it for yourself. In other words, he wants you, in a nice word, to be his slave. But he tells you that whatever you do and all the work you put into, the reward is going to be yours. And on the way, you're also going to enjoy good life. So who is going to say no to an offer like this? Only a stupid guy. What? This guy comes, gives me everything, whatever, a house, a car, whatever I want. And I have to work for him. And also the reward on the work is also going to me. And the work I'm doing is also only for the good of me because I know this guy loves me. Now God comes to you with the best offer in the world. He tells you, God tells you, come, be my slaves. I'm giving you everything. If you do what I want you to do, if you go according to the Torah, that's a whole big list of blessings. Unfortunately, there is also another list. If you don't listen to God, then the worst thing will happen to you. A big lesson for us. An unbelievable lesson. The Torah tells us in the beginning, so we understand. God comes to us with a special offer. You'll be my slaves. Now, really, the thing is that, like Rabbi Yehuda Halevi says, Avdei Zman Avdei Avadim Hem. The slaves of time are slaves of slaves. Eved Hashem hu levad chofshi. The slave of God, he is the free man. Freedom is doing what your mind tells you to do, what your neshama tells you to do, not what your body tells you to do, not running after desires. And in order to understand this, the Torah starts in Parashat Behar. Let me find it for a minute. Okay, where is it? Here. Torah tells us something very interesting. 1 minute, here. וידבר השם למשה בהר סיני. We have two parashiyot this week, yes? בהר and בחוקותיי, finishing ספר ויקרא. וידבר השם למשה בהר סיני לאמור. And God talked to Moses on the Mount of Sinai to tell him. דבר בני ישראל אמרת עליהם. You tell them, if when you come to the land that I'm giving to you, ושבתה הארץ שבת להשם. The land will cease of working, will strike. Really? We didn't do anything, and we start with a strike. Then the Torah explains to us, 6 שנים תזרע שדך. No. 6 years you're going to work, and then בשנה השביעית שבת שבתון יהיה לארץ שבת להשם סרטון. 1 minute. So if this is the case, So we don't need the first, Shabbat L'Hashem. It's already written in the second time. And why is the Torah starting with, first of all, when you come to the country, Shabbat L'Hashem? The Torah is trying to tell us something very important. If we think that we come to this world, onto this holy land, to work and bring parnasa and have good food and good life, a big mistake. Yes, we need all those things, but they are only means to get to our mission. What is our mission? What is our task in life? What is our target? Shabbat L'Hashem. Ki tavo el haaretz. You have to understand that whatever you do is for God, for the Shabbat L'Hashem. What is Shabbat? Me'en olam haba. It's like the next world, like olam haba. So in other words, what do we do here? Prepare ourselves for olam haba. And that's what we have to understand from the first meaning we're coming in. Shabbat L'Hashem. There is a reason that we came to that land. And here there's also another interesting thing that connects everything together. Everybody's asking, Ma inyan Shemitah leHar Sinai? What is the connection between Shemitah year and Har Sinai? So they said the simple answer is that, like the Torah is trying to tell us, that the same way as the Torah is now giving us all the details of Shnat Shemitah, what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do, the same thing is with all the other mitzvahs. All of them are from Har Sinai. In other words, we got in Har Sinai, the Mount of Sinai, in Matan Torah, that we are preparing ourselves for it now. We got all the mitzvahs with all the details, all the small details, all of them, though we don't see them written, they are all from Har Sinai. And the proof is Shemitah. So there is another question, why Shemitah? Why not Shabbos? Why not another mitzvah? There are so many mitzvahs. Why do we choose this mitzvah to be the title of this idea? Because what are we talking about? What happened on Mount Sinai? We got the Torah. For what? For us to take it where? To Eretz Israel. V'shavta haaretz Shabbat L'Hashem. So the whole thing of receiving the Torah on the Mount of Sinai is to get to Eretz Israel and have the combination of Am Israel, Torah Israel, and Eretz Israel, Shabbat L'Hashem, to keep the Torah. That's why we are getting the Torah and coming to Eretz Israel to put it all together. So there is no better mitzvah to show us the connection between receiving the Torah on the Mount of Sinai and the mitzvah of Shemitah that connects us to the land, to the Holy Land, and connects us together. This is the factor. This is the reason that we are here. The combination of Am Israel, Eretz Israel, and Torah Israel. V'shavta haaretz Shabbat L'Hashem. We're talking here about being at a very high level of trusting God. Emunah in bitachon. Because for a whole year, we're not going to work. Think about this. Because you have to understand, this is not a story. It's telling us what is meaning of worshiping God and understanding God. Of course, everything is built, again and again, I'm saying it, ala havta l'reacha kamocha. We're not building anything by ourselves. Sfirat HaOmer is, as we said, your individual powers, developing them in order to help the cloud, to help everybody. So here we have this idea of Shabbat L'Hashem, of the connection between the Torah, Matan Torah, Am Israel, and Eretz Israel. And for a whole year, the Torah is telling us, you're not going to work. You need a lot of trust in God, in emunah, believing God and trusting that God is going to provide. And He promises, I'm going to provide. Then you have Shnat Yovel. 50 years, after 50 years, you have Shemitah, and another year, 2 years that you don't work. Imagine to yourself somebody is not going to work for 2 years. You have to be at the highest level of emunah. And I saw a beautiful story, like telling about this. This acrobat, or whatever you call it in England, I don't know, that walks, walks on a string between two mountains. And he's standing, and everybody knows it's a well-known acrobat. And he's got this string between two mountains, and this height is unbelievable. And he holds this stick that that he balances himself on the stick, and he's asking the crowd waiting downstairs, big crowd, do you believe I can do this? And everybody's shouting, yes. He throws the stick, the pole that he uses in order to balance himself, away, and says, do you believe that I can do it now without the pole? And they're shouting, yes, of course. Now he's telling them, you know what? I'm going to do this without a pole, and I will take a chair in my hands. Do you believe I can do it? Walking from this side to the other side on this thin string, with a chair in my hands? Now the whole crowd is getting crazy. Wow, yes! Then he says, you know what? I'm going to add something else. Do you believe that I will walk on this thin cable without a pole, but with a chair in my hands, and on this chair, one of you is sitting? Do you believe? Wow, now they're all getting unbelievable. Thunder, sleep, oh, yes, yes. He says, okay, who volunteers to be the one who sits on the chair? How many volunteers do you think there were? And that's exactly the idea. To understand the level of trust in God. God is telling us, look, I'm giving you the Torah. And I'm giving you Eretz Israel. And I want you to understand that if you keep the Torah, you're not only going to elevate yourself, you're going on the way to have all the good of this world. And if we remember this and understand that God is our Father who loves us, and He controls everything. Not China, not the States, not Bibi Netanyahu, nobody. And not the virus, Corona, no. The one who is controlling everything, the one and the only one is God in heaven. And if we show Him the trust and understand that now while we are counting the Omer, and on this beautiful day of Lag BaOmer, that we received the secrets of the Torah for Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that we will keep the Torah and try as hard as we can, doing those mitzvahs, Be'ezrat Hashem, we will elevate ourselves to the level of receiving the Torah in the best way we can, each one of us with his own talent, together, Ke'ish Echad, Belev Echad. Have a good day.